Hello, Arroyo Grande. It is so good to be seen by you. I'm Amy Register. I used to be employed there at Arroyo Grande as a Bible worker, and I really wish I could be there today to celebrate the baptism of my friend Niles. But alas, I have produced a small human who cannot go 30 minutes without being fed, being held, or being mopped up in strategic locations. I just don't trust her to make the trip yet. If you don't know me or Niles, let me regale you with a short tale of how we met, because it was one of the most divine appointments I've ever had in my life. I don't often claim to be impressed by God, but I believe that night I was. It was a dark and stormy night. I was sitting at the Nipomo Starbucks trying to take a short course on how to trade cryptocurrency, and in retrospect, God had a way better plan for me. Even though I had headphones on, I couldn't help but overhear the conversation of two young men sitting proximally, and they were talking about everything from mathematics being the language of the universe to classes at school and magic mushrooms. And while I was trying to concentrate and focus, their snippets of conversation kept filtering in and out, and I was annoyed. And I kept hearing in my mind, I put them there for you. And I thought I was crazy. It got my attention, and I said, God, if this is you, I will talk to these guys at the end of the night if they're still here. And they were still there, and one of them was Niles. Long story short, Niles and I ended up meeting a lot of times at that Starbucks once a week, almost every week, to talk about cool ideas, just what was happening in the world, and sometimes we would talk about religion, Jesus, and the Bible. So you can imagine how incredibly pumped I was when Rhonda mentioned that Niles had not only asked about learning more about the Bible, but had wanted to get baptized, because it's one thing to inquire about a certain faith or different values, and it's another thing completely to want to make a public statement about following after a faith, after a religion. Niles has always been a person who is seeking truth and how to live in love, and I am thrilled that he has found that in the person of Jesus. So Niles, on this, your day of baptism, your rebirth day, and very close to your actual birthday, as I understand, I want to give you 4 tips, 4 lessons that have been supremely important in my own personal journey towards Jesus. Number 1, there is truly no other reason to be a Christian than to align yourself and be part of the mission of God on earth. That is, living out the kingdom values of other-centered love and self-sacrifice. If you acknowledge and see that that is good and that is the way that the universe should run on, and that compels you, then you're in the right place. If you want a free pass to get out of trouble and have an easy life, Christianity is probably not for you, but Niles, you already know that. Number 2, I think it's important to remember that baptism is the public declaration of your beginning a relationship with Jesus. It's not like you've achieved sainthood, and I say this because a lot of people after baptism get down on themselves, and I was down on myself thinking, shouldn't I be like perfect, walking on water and spreading sunshine? The reality is we are all growing in Christ, and that's what baptism is saying. Hey, I intend to grow more and more like Jesus. Friends, church members, hold me accountable. Don't worry if you fall, if you mess up, if you make a mistake. We've all been there, and that's actually why we are following Jesus. He's the only perfect one. Number 3 is going to sound a little bit negative, but I want you to remember that the church will let you down. And it's important to say this because a lot of people think that the church is perfect and always doing God's will, but that's just not the case. And if you ever run into a situation where the church hurts you or someone you love, keep your focus on Jesus, and you be the church. You be the called out one. You be the one that stands for God's values on earth. Number 4 is going to sound a little bit contradictory, but it is that you can expect to receive power and the gifts of the Spirit. Now, that's not the reason why you join Christianity, but it is promised to believers. And so, Niles, I want to encourage you to pray for that. Pray for power to have other-centered love in times where you're really tested. That's the kind of power that God promises to his followers. In closing, Niles, normally I would say, welcome to the family. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot of that today, but what I've recently realized is that everyone is already a son or daughter of the living God. And so what I want to say instead is, welcome to the mission. I cannot wait to see what God does with your understanding of his character and what he does to shape your life and path over the next few years. Can't wait to hear more of the story. Happy Baptism Day.